As more electric vehicles move beyond their new car warranty period, many owners are left with important questions about service, cost, and long-term reliability. Should you return to the dealership, or are independent shops up to the task of maintaining your electric vehicle? In this episode, we take a look at electric vehicle maintenance, from end of warranty checks to practical strategies for keeping your EV running efficiently and reliably well into the future. We are pleased to welcome back David Giles, a seasoned automotive and EV professional with over 30 years of industry experience. David has led innovations in electric drive systems, vehicle accessibility solutions, and has trained countless licensed technicians and apprentices in the field of automotive care. And whenever you come on, we have a lot of keeners who are interested to hear what you have to say. Not many of us get to look under the hood the way you do on these vehicles. So it's awesome of you to share your knowledge and experience with us.
Well, it's pretty exciting, Tim, and this is a great topic tonight that we're going to be talking about is essentially what happens at the end of warranty with your vehicle. So, and that's what we're going to be discussing this evening.
Absolutely. All right, listen, I'm going to get out of the way and I'll just let you have at it.
Perfect. So as we were talking about end of life of the warranty, that said, I just want to talk a little bit about what we do. We're Powered EV. Basically, we build and design special training aids for education facilities for Consulab. Consulab is a Quebec-based engineering education company that builds innovative products for the automotive industry, and helps promote the trades in the sense of the motive power side. So we do a lot of different things here in Halifax. One is we build these specialized IDEV vehicles, and they're used to help train technicians on how to maintain your electric vehicle. So it's very unique opportunity this evening because we're actually talking about servicing electric vehicles at the end of a warranty period. So I'm going to give a lot of different discussion here. It's going to move pretty quick tonight. I got a lot to cover. And I want to make it so that as we're talking this evening is what happens with EVs at their end of life. So end of life of the warranty, I should say. So not the end of life of the vehicle. We're seeing a lot of these vehicles go well past 400, 500,000 kilometers on original batteries and drive units. So it's a unique type of vehicle because we're seeing it well exceed the gasoline or internal combustion engine vehicles for that. So I want to move right along here, and I want to get moving with their program this evening. We are going to be talking about the independent service shops as well as dealer shops as well. I work for both. So in fact, we actually owned our own independent electric vehicle service and repair shop as well as a dealership back in the 2019 to about 2021, which was known as All EV Canada. So real quick, just a recap, warranty, what is it? Because understanding that what you're now working out of in the sense of your warranty is now coming up, it's basically you've driven your vehicle, whether you met the mileage or the time, the warranty is coming up. So warranty to most people is a way of a manufacturer guaranteeing certain systems on the vehicle to be covered if there's a problem with them, whether it's a manufacturer defect or the part wears early, that it would be replaced at the manufacturer's cost. And so what does that mean? It means that it gives two things, really. A lot of people like warranty because it gives peace of mind and it also gives value to their vehicle. So when their vehicle starts to hit into those 100,000, 120,000 kilometer range, having that powertrain and battery warranty is a way of reassuring that that their vehicle is still being covered, even though the bumper to bumper warranty has expired on that vehicle. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well too. And then I'm going to go into this evening. What I want to show is we're going to talk about the how you can care for your vehicle, but I want to show you examples as well. So tonight, I'm not just going to tell you what you need to do, because a lot of service centers and skilled technicians and trained technicians, whether at a dealer or at an independent, should be able to look after your vehicle, understand what needs to be checked, and so on. But at the same time, I want to show, some of the things that happen to these vehicles when they're not maintained. And this is not directly for EVs as well. Sometimes we'll see this stuff on combustion vehicles. But the uniqueness of an EV is that because of the powertrain in the vehicles and the reliability of those powertrains, as well as the battery technology that's advancing very rapidly, even cars that are 5, 6, even 10 years old are well exceeding that end of warranty period and still continue to be on the road. And some cars will succeed even further. Um, into those 500,000-600,000 kilometer range, and others don't. Now I'm going to talk about why that happens. A lot of people ask, like, how come his vehicle can go, 400,000 kilometers and mine is having all sorts of problems? And it's not unique to just that one vehicle, but it's also, a way of identifying and why things sometimes fail on vehicles. Sometimes why does that component need to be changed when it's within the warranty period? Or why only after 1,000 kilometers after my warranty ends, this component failed? It was almost like the manufacturer had sabotaged the vehicle to fail at that point. And that's not true. But there is something unique about what happens with the warranties themselves. First of all, understanding what is covered. We have our basic bumper to bumper warranty, can be anywhere from 60,000 to 80,000 kilometers, and covers a variety of things on the vehicle. Not everything is covered, though, and this is going to be a unique part of what I'm going to be talking about. Is some of the components that are covered, some of the components that aren't covered, and then as you move out of your warranty, it really doesn't matter, because it's now all your responsibility to ensure that those components are up to snuff in your vehicle. Powertrain warranties vary between manufacturers. So as they start to expire, one of the things that comes up is people want to know, what is my powertrain? Will it last? And that's the big question. How can I tell if I have a problem with my drive unit, or something in that nature? And there is telltale signs to be able to identify that stuff. And I'm going to give you some of those hints tonight. Same as battery warranty. We see the battery warranties coming up. There's a lot of things about battery warranty. Sometimes some manufacturers require yearly checks, data health checks, inspections. Others do not. Mileage and years also vary with them. Some of them are unlimited warranty with a set amount of years. Others, are 160, 192. So they're kind of all over the place a little bit. So it's always best to refer to your manufacturer. But what do you do as it's coming up to that end of warranty period? So this is where a lot of people are uh, trying to warrant if they're going to, do they trade it in now, 10,000 kilometers before the warranty expires, or do they continue on? The vehicle's been a great vehicle with absolutely no issues, and they enjoy driving it. They don't want to trade it in. It doesn't make sense. They don't want a new one. They want to keep it. So these are sometimes one of the biggest ones is the battery warranty, because we hear that fear all the time about how much the batteries cost. And that's actually kind of a tongue in cheek now, as we're seeing some of the replacement batteries aren't as expensive as they were first thought of, is because there's not a lot of them being replaced. So it's they're well exceeding their mileage, as well as a lot of times when a battery module fails, and I have some examples here, or the battery pack fails, it's actually not the modules. It's actually not the battery itself. It's the components within that battery that are not serviceable in some cases, which require entire replacement. But we'll talk about that, because once your warranty is done, then we have professionals out there that are actually into rebuilding, fixing, repairing those components inside the modules. or inside the packs without having to replace any of the modules. Corrosion warranty was a big one. As your mileage comes up or the years come up, your corrosion warranty obviously is going to start expiring. So, big question that comes up is what happens now? It's my car's never had any kind of preventive corrosion products on it, and now it's out of warranty, and I don't want my vehicle to start to start to rust out and so on. So what can I do there? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And if you're driving a PHEV, obviously you have emissions warranty. Unique about emissions warranty is sometimes it exceeds even longer than the powertrain, battery, and obviously the basic warranty. So you see sometimes emission warranties will go a lot longer on a PHEV for the emission control systems like catalytic converters or evaporative emission systems and so on, part of those systems. Okay, so let's see. I have to advance this by my slide. So what's usually not covered in warranties, and this is where we're going to get into, this is kind of my last slide into the warranty section. But anyways, damage due to misuse of the vehicle. So obviously warranties will be, ignored from that. Accidents, even if the vehicle was in an accident and was repaired, if a component fails later on, it was determined to be part of that accident, they also can refuse a warranty on it. So sometimes little things like that, modifications, aftermarket wheels, things like that, natural degradation of the battery outside of the stated thresholds. And I'm actually going to show you some examples of that this evening. Regular maintenance, usually not covered by warranty. So like brake pads, tires, fluids, filters, etc. So, I see all the time where somebody gets a car and, one of the two tires in the rear of the vehicle wear out faster than the fronts, and they're looking for warranty on that. And tire warranty is kind of unique. It's usually all four tires have to wear the same amount within that threshold for replacement. If only two wear, then obviously there's something else going on. So once again, just some of the things about warranty that we have experienced with our vehicles up until the date that the warranty is done. Just be aware that not all warranties are the same. So once again, some vehicles, 5 years bumper to bumper, 100,000 kilometers. Others are not as long on the bumper to bumper. And that's up to the manufacturer to determine that warranty period. So saying that not all vehicles have the same warranty. It's not a government legislated amount of time other than on emission control systems. But on the battery and powertrains and bumper to bumper and corrosion, perforation warranties, they vary between manufacturers. So sometimes always refer back to your warranty guide on what's actually covered and when the dates are done. So one of the things, end of warranty inspections. This is a big thing that people will ask about is what do I do? My warranty is starting to expire. Where do I do? Do I take it back to the dealer and have them do a end of warranty inspection on the vehicle? Do I take it to an independent garage to have the inspection done? One thing is people look at the mileage on their vehicle to determine when the warranty is finished. Sometimes they don't even realize that they've already gone over the years or the timeline for that warranty. So it's always a good to make sure that you know your date that your warranty expires as well as that kilometers. I've seen lots of cars that are, 7, 8 years old and, they have less than 40,000 kilometers on them. So they've gone past their warranty period in time, but not in mileage. So that means that their warranty is finished. This is the biggest one, is the independent to a dealer. So the thing is, an independent service center can definitely look at your vehicle, but you got to remember, if you're doing an end of warranty inspection at an independent shop, you're paying for the technician's time to inspect your vehicle, check it over. And of course, I would only select independent shop or technician that is familiar with your product. So whatever you're driving, make sure that they have that experience and knowledge working on your particular vehicle. So if he was a GM, works on bolts and so on, and he's well experienced with that, then great. So that would be an independent you would want to work on your look at your vehicle at the end of inspection. But if he finds something that would say, yes, that's definitely a warranty item, it's like, you got a leak in the rear gearbox, it's probably under warranty, I would take it in and have it done. It's the dealer's discretion to allow if the warranty will be performed. So even though you take it to an independent shop and he gives you a list of things, and you go back to the dealer, that list it will probably be ignored by the dealer, and the dealer will basically charge you to inspect your vehicle. And maybe you mentioned that there's a leak, and if they determine that it's not a warranty item, then you'll be responsible to pay that labor time for that inspection. So be aware of that. So, it's good. I always recommend to have someone look your vehicle over and then take it to a dealer to have them inspect it, because obviously at the end of the day, the dealer is also an independent. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of dealers are basically by franchise or franchisees, and and they basically have direct access to OEM information and scan tool and tooling and so on. But the big thing is the dealer also has the privilege of doing warranty work for the manufacturer and charging back to the manufacturer for that warranty work. But you got to remember, not all dealers are the same either. So some manufacturers are the dealer. So there's no advantage for them to bring your car in and do an end of warranty inspection to find things wrong with your vehicle. And because they're not billing it back to the manufacturer. They are an extension of the manufacturer. We actually call them end of line. So at that time, so sometimes it's good to have two opinions on your vehicle when you take it in and you're getting close to the end of that warranty. A lot of components on an EV are expensive, so you want to make sure that they're identified, but at the same time that it's either noted when you go to the dealer, as well as that inspection is for an end of warranty. But the thing is, you got to be aware that some manufacturers are the dealer. So at some cases, they're trying to reduce their cost at that level. And, basically, if there's, something that's going on with the vehicle, like, you have a creaky door or something like that, that's obviously not going to be covered under warranty, but you might want to make note of it for later on. Once again, component or systems that may not be covered. So once again, your inspection, you might think that's covered under a warranty issue. You take it in as not, like wheel bearings and so on. But some manufacturers will add a wheel bearing under their powertrain warranty. Others will not. So once again, it's a good idea to take a look at some of the warranties that are available. And what your vehicle covers on that. Inspection may not cover all systems as well. So depending on who's looking at your vehicle before your warranty expires, that's why I always recommend having a good, a good technician or a shop that knows your vehicle or your product line that you're operating. Is that they will do, they'll know your vehicle, they know what to check, they know what to look for, and that can help, especially especially if you're determined if you're going to keep the vehicle as well too, before that warranty expires. One thing I can recommend to anybody, and this is probably one of the big things too as well, just before you take your vehicle into whether it's an independent or a dealer, take your vehicle for a good drive, even because most people use EVs as commuter vehicles. So they're traveling less than 50, 60 kilometers a day. It's a predetermined route every day. They might not go on the highway. They might not go through certain roads. So I always recommend that take your vehicle for a good drive, and keep note of anything you hear, anything that you feel, because sometimes if you don't travel on the highway a lot, and all of a sudden you take your vehicle on the highway, now it's pulling really bad to the right, but typically it might not pull at all while you're driving in the city. So it may lead to there's maybe a problem with the vehicle itself. There might be an issue with one of the systems. So this way you can better, nothing's worse than your warranty expiring and then you decide you're going to go for a trip up to an hour and a half away. It's the first time you take it on the highway in over a year, and you got some strange noise, or you got the vehicle's pulling, and you find out later that there's a problem with either drive unit or something that could have been covered by warranty. So I always say, take it for a good drive, at least a 20 to half hour drive. Go on roads that you normally don't travel. Take it on the highway. Keep notes of what you hear, see, smell, even, and basically it's when you take it in to have it looked at for the end of warranty inspection. And basically you can give those notes to the technician or the service advisor looking at your vehicle. So once the warranty expired, keep a list of things that need to be done regardless, even after the warranty is gone. Find a reputable shop. Lots of training is happening right now in our high schools. Our apprenticeship system is adopting electric vehicles in pretty much in all the motive power trades. So there's entire sections now where technicians have to be trained on electric vehicles to understand their systems and how they function. As well as set appointments. If you find a shop that you like, set appointment, just like you do your dentist every 6 months. You set an appointment, do your tire rotation, have them do a vehicle inspection, things like that. If you plan on keeping the vehicle, it's always good to find problems before they become a bigger problem. This is a big one. Find forms for your vehicle. Online, social media is great, especially if you have a high mileage vehicle that you're planning on keeping. Find forms for your vehicle and become a member of that group. This way you can see and hear what people are saying. It gives reassurance, especially if you get something really weird going on with your car and 50 other people have the same problem and it turns out to be this. Then you can catch things before they actually happen. So sometimes these forums are awesome. Do an alignment at least once a year on the vehicle. That's something I'd like to recommend, because an alignment isn't just about keeping your car straight. It's the inspection process that happens with that alignment for your steering, suspension, chassis. They do ride height checks. The advanced aligners nowadays are very sophisticated, so they can catch things before they become a bigger problem. In Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI, we have every 2 years, we have motor vehicle inspections. These are great. They're only $34 with tax. And essentially, a technician brings in the vehicle, they remove all the wheels, they measure the brakes, they do inspection of the steering suspension systems. So it's a great opportunity. It's cheap to have a vehicle checked over by a licensed technician. And this can be even done at a dealer as well, too. And you don't have to wait for the inspection to expire in our provinces. It can be done anytime. So, and I know people that even go and buy used vehicles, even though the inspection is still good for a year and a half, 2 years, they'll take it to a local shop for $35. They get a quick safety check on the vehicle. Charge capacity, I'm going to get into that a little bit here. We're going to talk about that as part of my tips and tricks, but charge capacity is how much you can keep or how much can be stored in your vehicle based on your charge rate at this day. So basically your capacity, we're going to take a little bit interesting things happen with these vehicles that we're starting to see. Another thing to watch for, and one thing that people ask me is that how can I prevent, further damage to my vehicle if something is starting to fail? To not wait till it actually fails. And sometimes that is watching your kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers or your watts per hour or per kilometer. Once again, this is a good indicator of what's going on with your vehicle. I see a lot of people that might be getting 15, 16 kilowatt hours per 100K. And all of a sudden now they're getting 21 and the conditions are the same, temperatures are the same. They drive this route every day. And of course, right away, they think there's something wrong with their vehicle, and rightfully so. And it could be an early sign as well of something that's going on. And I'm going to show you some examples of that's actually what happens. Charging speeds as well. If you notice you go to a charger constantly, you're charging at 120 kilowatts, 120 kilowatts, 140 kilowatts, and all of a sudden now you're only charging at 80 kilowatts. 90 kilowatts. No difference. You get off a shift, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Every time you go, there's nobody at the DCFCs, and you notice that your charging rate's dropping, your fans are getting noisier or noisy. You hear them turning on more, and you're not getting the charge rate speeds. That's an early indication of a problem. So we'll see that in a few minutes here. Keeping the car clean, not just on the outside, but also underneath the vehicle. And I want to get into some of this, showing you some of this stuff as well. After warranty, systems that need to be maintained are designed to fail. As in engineering and doing engineering, everything is designed for a beginning to an end. So when something is designed, it's actually designed in a way to know its limitations and exactly when it's failed. As long as that product or that component works within a specific range, whether it's temperature, environment, whatnot, it would be, they know how long that component typically can last. What makes things last longer is when you do things to reduce that the wear or the temperature. So, for example, if you have a temperature related problem, say the heat exchangers aren't working properly, it puts a little more stress on some of the components. It can hurt batteries, it can hurt drive units, it can hurt electronics, and of course, it will reduce their life expectancy. So, maintaining these systems beyond what the OEM recommended sometimes can actually help the longevity of these components and these systems. So, and we'll take a look at that in a second. Body and chassis components. Once again, these are some of the things that happens with vehicles, as you can see on the left. This is an underbelly pan of a Model 3, I believe. That's a Model 3. And you can see that, what accumulates underneath these body pans. So once again, if you're planning on continuing to keep your vehicle after the warranty, and even before warranty, is you want to keep that debris out of there. A lot of these electric vehicles have a lot of underbelly pans that are plastic. They can gather dirt and debris. The problem is not the dirt and debris, but what it holds. In Canada, we use brine, we use salt, we use sand on our roads, especially in the wintertime. And that actually, with the moisture within that dirt, can accelerate corrosion underneath the vehicle very quickly. So, so once again, keeping these systems clean. A lot of shops are offering underbelly pan cleaning. It's simple enough. It's a service, and also it helps keep the vehicle from rusting. As well as a shop that does this kind of stuff, the underbelly pan cleaning, and that usually can also report on if there's any corrosion. Things can be touched up at that time, or informing you. So if there's paint missing, there's some surface rust, it can be caught early, because once again, if this is left, eventually it will start to corrosion will happen very quickly, and of course it'll cause failure of that component, which at that time might be the demise of that vehicle. One thing we do say is that the batteries will outlast the cars. So so typically a lot of the EVs I've seen that have wound up into end of life, fairly high mileage on them, but at the same time, they still ran great, but the bodies were just too far gone to save them. So the corrosion aspect was too far. It was too expensive to fix these vehicles. And of course, when you're talking a car that has over 280,000 kilometers and needs a whole bunch of body work, rocker panels, things like that, even holes in the subframe, most people just determine the vehicle will go to end of life, and hopefully repurposing those components that still makes the car work normal. Okay, see here. The other thing people ask is it too late to add rust protection to the vehicle? And absolutely not. The big thing about rust protection on a vehicle, especially an EV, is make sure whoever's doing it is experienced and is capable and knows your vehicle in applying that product. So The reason some manufacturers do rust protection to the vehicles, like, as part of even dealership chain that I worked at a few years ago, they did rust protection all the time. But the difference is that a manufacturer will not recommend rust protection to a vehicle because they can't, one, control the process, and two, they can't endorse a product. So those are two main issues. So manufacturers have a really good rust protection coating on the vehicles with the E-coat for the body and metal components. And then in some cases, some dealers offer additional rust protection. Toyota, Honda, there's a bunch of them out there. And so the fact is, even though your car has never had it because you're afraid of warranty issues by applying a product, you can now apply the product, but just make sure that whoever's doing it is skilled, understands the vehicle. And the reason is because some of these products can seep, and they may damage some of the weather pack seals on some of the connectors. They can swell them and stuff like that. So most people that I know that apply this product are trained on electric vehicles. So it'd be hard pressed to find a professional shop that's offering rust protection that isn't properly trained for doing electric vehicles. So is it too late? Never too late. I would recommend it, especially as the vehicle gets older. Do a rust protection to it. But once again, ask the questions, make sure they know your vehicle before applying the product. Batteries are always, I use, the battery term there, but most people don't realize there's actually 3 batteries in most EVs that you should be aware of. Obviously, we have the low voltage battery. And you got to remember something. The low voltage battery controls the high voltage system. It is the boss. It controls everything in the vehicle. If the low voltage battery is somewhat compromised in any way, it will affect major systems of the vehicle. So the thing is that most low voltage batteries, especially the AGMs and flooded lead acid batteries, they usually have between about a 5 to 7 year life expectancy. And guess what? Most warranties on powertrain and that is about 8 years. So if your battery is still original in your car, you definitely want to make sure you have it tested at least once a year, maybe every 6 months when you go in for tire rotation, or if you have appointments set up, maybe have them do a battery check on your low voltage battery. They're not expensive at the end of the day. Some people just replace them as a maintenance item. But if the low voltage battery goes down, it can cause a lot of problems with your vehicle. So low voltage battery, don't forget about that. High voltage battery, I would say that's probably the least thing that you have to worry about when your warranty ends is a high voltage battery. One, there's lots of replacements coming out. Two, they are becoming more serviceable, even in the Model 3s and Ys with these 4 module packs. And then as well as we're seeing these batteries go, well beyond the life of the vehicle. When you're starting to look at a vehicle that can actually travel still at about 250 to 300 kilometers per charge, and they have a 2,500 cycle, maybe even 1,500 cycles, you're still talking over 400,000 driven kilometers on that battery. So, once again, as long as things are maintained and things are working properly, that vehicle will well exceed the battery will well exceed the vehicle itself in most cases. The third battery, I put this up here because somebody actually called me about a month ago, is the key fob battery. If your vehicle uses a key fob, same thing. That little lithium ion 2032 battery, it will wear out. And the funny thing with lithium batteries is that when they go, then they die. And so your key fob working one day dies the next day. I recommend replacing the key fob battery once every 3 years. But the thing is, most people don't until they start running into problems. And of course, that problem could happen on a day that they need to get into the car and the battery's dead. They got to pull the key, the manual key out. So that's if the vehicle uses a key fob. Some cars now use RFI cards, some of them use your phone. But if it does have a key fob itself, make sure you keep the battery replaced in that, because that can cause a lot of issues later on. The big thing that does come out is the state of health that we talk about all the time, battery degradation. Once again, so a lot of shops now, a lot of new equipment, a lot of new scan tools directly plug into these vehicles to get that state of health out of that vehicle. So a lot of professional shops, from the training I've seen being done, most of these shops now are capable of getting your battery degradation, as well as their state of health, I should say. And even in the vehicles now is becoming more common. I even noticed in the Tesla, it's in the main menu now. You don't even have to go into service mode anymore. It's it's right in the main, so a customer can actually do their own state of health on the battery. And to review, under warranty, the battery is usually 70% or less. The battery will get replaced under warranty. But we're seeing batteries with well over, I just had a car with 278,000 kilometers on it, and it still had 87% state of health on that battery. So it's pretty impressive of the chemistry in these batteries and how long they're actually lasting. One of the critical systems on a vehicle, if you want to keep this vehicle for a long time and keep it working properly, is the thermal systems on the vehicle. Coolant systems are used by the batteries, drive units, electronics. That coolant itself is critical. Air conditioning with chillers. So once again, air conditioning isn't just used for cabin comfort. It's also used in chillers to remove heat from the coolant. It's used to help cool the batteries, cool the electronics in some cases, as well as drive units. If an air conditioning system starts to fail because it's leaking a little bit, it can basically damage the compressor, and it will also create problems within the thermal system. Not to remove heat quick enough, which can damage batteries, slow charge speeds, as I mentioned earlier. So if the air conditioning not working properly, it can affect charging. It can affect performance output. It could have, early failures in some electronics. Some computers are cooled by that same coolant. So once again, very important system to look at. The heat exchangers need to stay clean and clear of debris. It's a simple thing to do, but more critical on EVs is that these heat exchangers are not being blocked. So, and we're going to see that in a second, as well as your air intake ducts for your shutters, your air shutters for the radiator, for the condenser, usually in the front of the vehicle. Once again, they need to be operational. They need to work. Thermal systems is critical on high mileage EVs because everything depends on thermal heat exchange. So get rid of the heat as well as keep things within an operating temperature. We use a lot of heat pumps now in vehicles. No difference. Refrigerant and cooling systems must be operating as intended, or you will start to have failures. I'm saying this, or you will start to have failures on these components because these systems are so critical for the operation of an EV. So it's all about heat exchange, whether it's a charging system, performance of the vehicle, battery, maintenance on the battery, and longevity of these systems. These I've probably taken apart, probably well over 150 cars in my day. I've done we've done about 15 to 16 in the last 2 months. And every one of them that comes in, we get a lot of higher mileage EVs, and we see debris. We see, there's a bird leaf there. There's a cigarette butt somewhere down in here. But these things are like vacuum cleaners going down the road. So, once again, and if this is blocked, there's my AC condenser. AC condenser is critical for the operation of the battery, the drive unit, and electronics on this vehicle, actually more so on the battery. And if this is half blocked or blocked by debris, it's not going to get proper heat exchange. It's going to affect the performance, it's going to affect the longevity of the battery, and I'm going to have issues going down the road. So air conditioning systems need to be serviced. They need to be checked, not just because you might not gain cold air, but you got to remember that the other systems will be affected greatly by that. And that's only if the vehicle is being, using the air conditioning system or compressor or heat pump to manage the thermal, systems of that vehicle. Coolant, once again, some manufacturers say coolant doesn't need to be replaced. Others have 80,000 kilometers, others have 240,000 kilometers. It's always good to I always recommend what the manufacturer recommends for replacement. But one thing is never mix coolants. This is the example of inside an inverter. This is from a Tesla. And these are little fingers, aluminum fingers, and coolant runs through this to remove the heat from the inverter. If this stuff gets sludged up because the coolant hasn't been replaced or has been mixed with something else, these can get plugged up, and that would cause the inverter to fail. So once again, and some of these systems are actually directly taking that coolant, removing the heat from the coolant through the air conditioning system to manage the heat that's being generated by some of these systems. It's one of the most important fluids in an electric vehicle is that coolant. Motors and drive units. So the other thing that comes up is what is there to service in a drive unit? There is still oil in these units, and sometimes they're special oils, sometimes they're not. But regardless, they still need servicing. The oil itself is an important part of, once again, is in some cases, some vehicles use that oil in the drive unit to actually help heat the battery in the vehicle, and strategies that are used. But in our environment, we have, this is a Tesla, the Ford F-150, Lightning, others they actually have filters on them. And even though the filter might not have a maintenance interval on it, they still rust, and they'll rust, and they'll leak. And of course, if they leak, they lose fluid. That fluid needs to be topped back up. If it doesn't, it can cause failure in the bearings inside the drive unit. It can affect the heating of a battery in the case of a Tesla, and so on. So, once again, watching for staining and stuff like that. Sometimes it's a simple $20 oil filter, but it takes a special procedure to refill this particular unit. On the very left of my screen, this is actually from a Model S Tesla. And because these drive units are cooled by coolant, it's also important to inspect these units for oil or for coolant ingestion into the drive unit. If coolant starts to get into the drive unit, what it will do is the stator, which is part of the electric motor, the insulation on that stator will start to get eaten away by the coolant inside these drive units mixing with the oil, which will cause early failure. So to prevent that, a quick inspection, this is the speed sensor off a drive unit. You can take a look at the drive unit and see if there's any signs of coolant. If there is, then the unit can be drained, it can be saved, and as long as there's no issues right there. But if that coolant eats through the stator and you have a loss of isolation, you're done. That drive unit needs to be replaced. So it could be as simple as just a change and maybe a coolant seal to fix it. But if it goes beyond that, you could wind up having major problems there. High voltage battery. This is examples here that we've found with some of these vehicles. These are from 2020s. These pictures are from 2020 Teslas in this case here. But once again, the corrosion within the battery. This actually had a loss of isolation. The vehicle did not drive, did not work. We tested all 4 modules. They were perfect. What happened is water got into the battery case, and basically it created a loss of isolation, and essentially the battery failed at that point. So once again, keeping these cars clean is critical. Washing them, once again, spraying undercoating on a battery I would say, is probably not recommended, but you definitely can get down these rails and keep them clean and washed, ensuring that they don't get any kind of corrosion. This is an aluminum case at the bottom, and that is tin, that's sheet metal. And of course, with salt, you get chemical reaction, will eat right through it. It fails the IP67 installation ingestion test because it's basically come apart. This battery literally almost lifted its lid off without any effort at all. Once we took the little bolts out, the ones that we could get out, usually it's sealed. We have to cut these covers off and they come out. And this one here, just to show you, the condition on the outside looked pretty good, but between them was very bad. And this one was actually getting some of that corrosion inside that battery. So keeping them clean. If you want your vehicle to last, inspect it, have someone inspect it, make sure that it stays clean, and and basically this will prevent this here. This is just from salt and that's gotten into these areas, and the vehicle obviously wasn't cleaned underneath very much.
Hey,
High
Dave.
voltage.
Hey,
Yep.
Dave, I hate to interrupt because this is
Sure.
such cool information. But I know that if we don't leave a couple of minutes to get some questions
Sure.
in, people are going to be upset, and I don't want them.
Okay.
I don't want them mad at me. So, so
I'm having too much fun.
I know you are, and so are we. So are we. But I've always promised this is a 1 hour
Sorry.
webinar. So,
Okay, sure.
so,
Okay. Well,
so do you have a wrap up, like a summary
yeah, let me
one?
just I'm only have a couple slides left here, so I'm just going to go show some of the things and why it's important. So, just real quick, end of life. Batteries are being rebuilt these days. There is replacement components. People are even changing cells. Brakes, we talk about brakes all the time, about brake caliper servicing, but at the end of the day, even though they look great, we got to still be able to take them apart and look at them. This example of a brake caliper separating. Maintenance was not done on this vehicle and essentially deteriorated. In fact, the brake pads were still good on it, but the backings and that actually fell apart on it because rust got between it. Beyond brake caliper servicing, once again, we're seeing corrosion on brake lines rapidly. This is from a 2021 vehicle. If you get a soft pedal on your vehicle, because you don't use the brakes very often, don't forget about the brake fluid service. What happens? Moisture gets in it. Obviously brake fluids floats on top of water. So what happens? The water goes down into the calipers, and it can corrode the calipers from the inside out. So, and sometimes you'll get a spongy brake pedal from that. Once again, inspection of suspension system. Big thing people come up with is tires. Quick check that you can do on your vehicle to see if there's something going on is look for uneven wear, distortion of the tire, things like that. Could be an indication that there's a suspension problem. We've been finding a lot of vehicles, especially in the EVs, all-wheel drives and rear-wheel drives, where the bushings are being pushed out. So these are some of the things that to watch for. I know that was fast, but once again, there's so much to cover on this topic. But I welcome any questions for sure. If you have any, please ask away.
Oh
Great.
my gosh. Obviously, this is a subject that probably should be done in at least four parts. There's so much that we could attack here and get into, but this is really, really good. Jason, I'm going to call on Jason Arnaud. He's been monitoring the questions. Jason, do we have, can we fit in a few? We've got a few minutes here to work on it, so let's see what we got.
Yeah, the top one actually is one of the last things you talked about, David. So, with the added weight of batteries in EVs, are you seeing an uptick in issues with suspension components? I've had
Yes.
several parts replaced on my almost 5-year-old Model 3, mainly due to failing bushings.
Yeah, and it's due to the torque, yes. And to answer the question, yes. And that means that if you are keeping your vehicle longer, use quality parts. Aftermarket parts are now available for a lot of these cars. But make sure they're a quality part. Make sure you get a warranty with. So a lot of these parts will come with a warranty themselves. So if you get like a control arm because the bushing got pushed out, like in the picture I showed, some of these components may even get a lifetime warranty. Depends on where you buy them. This way, it gives you peace of mind if it fails again. Early telltale signs of some suspension issues, usually in the tires. So, getting an alignment done, usually a good technician would identify it. They actually measure ride height and so on. So, there's a variety of things that happen with that. But yes, I do see on a lot of the higher mileage. In fact, our guys, I have two guys that work at Powered EV. One of them has 8 years with Tesla, and he's like, he says, like, you know, when that car comes in, we'd like, how many kilometers are on that car? It's 230. He goes, I bet you both rear control upper forward arms or the bushings are pushed out. So, you know, so it's coming up. But the good news is some of these parts aren't that expensive, and the availability of aftermarket is out there as well. So
Yeah, my personal experience with my Model S, the single largest out of warranty repair was suspension.
yeah. Yeah. Our roads are rough, and there's a lot of variables that happen with that too, as well too. So, but yeah, it's the nature of the beast.
Okay, Chad asks, should technicians today be worried about lack of work with more EVs on the road since EVs require less maintenance than ICE vehicles?
It's a misconception that EVs actually require less maintenance. They require different maintenance on vehicles. A skilled technician working on an EV will identify certain systems. As you mentioned, you know, you don't see a lot of suspension failures on an ICE vehicle compared to an EV, especially a rear-wheel drive. You mentioned Tesla Model 3 there. But you'll see that the work is changing. You're going to see a lot more different types of electronics, electrical issues, testing within the powertrain, the drive units, the inverters, the stators, and that still need to be monitored, tested. I mentioned a bunch of things in this course. Brake caliper service. How many times does a gas-powered owner do brake caliper service? They only do the brakes when they start squeaking or fail or they start shaking. EVs require them yearly. So some of that work changes a little bit. I'm sure the big dollar things like engine replacement and transmission replacement would be gone, but you know, once again, supplemented by other services.
Great, thank you. And staying in that same vein, do PHEVs and other variants like that cause difficulties and increased cost when finding maintenance shops and techs because they have to be versed in both the ICE and EV side of things and how they work together?
Yeah, and that's correct. PHEVs are definitely, and hybrids, HEVs are definitely more complex. You do have to have the ICE side as well, the combustion side of knowledge. So you still have all your emission system, fuel systems, exhaust systems, engine controls, and all that. As well as then you have the electronics that integrate into that vehicle as well with the high voltage battery, the charging systems, and so on. So it does take actually a more skilled technician at the end of the day that has that experience with the combustion engines, and then having the electrical experience as well for the high voltage system. So as Chad mentioned earlier, like, you know, will there be more work? Well, specializing in these types of vehicles will definitely accelerate someone into an area that's very specialized with servicing, especially on PHEV and hybrid vehicles.
David, you did a whole webinar talking about the next generation of EV technicians or automotive technicians that you did
Mm-hmm.
with us. And I'll put a link to that in the comment section of the
Great.
recording for this, so people go back and watch it again if they wish.
Perfect.
Okay, Sandy asks, I spent, or I have a 2021 Kona with 110,000 K, had to replace both front wheel bearings, about 1,900 bucks, and low coolant, 1,000 bucks. Work done by dealer. Was I overcharged?
I can't speak to what costs are because even down here, like some of the dealerships, the hourly rate is $249 labor time, especially on EVs. Wheel bearings and those types of things that fail on a vehicle are no different than the wheel bearings that are found on a combustion vehicle. So, you know, that cost is the same. And a lot of times, even in like some of these vehicles like the Kona, they'll share the same components with their counterparts. So the electric and the gas may use the same components like wheel bearings, in some case brakes and other systems. So whatever that cost is would be the same type of cost that would be with a combustion vehicle, unless they have a different door rate for an electric vehicle specialist. But in that case here, with the mileage on your vehicle and replacing those parts, they definitely weren't under warranty, and nothing. You could have gone to an independent as well to do those same services, and it wouldn't have affected any of the high voltage system at all on that vehicle. So.
Yeah. All right, guys, I hate to be the Grinch, but I'll have to, I think, cut it off here. Again, we could keep going. I know there's just so much that we could talk about, but it's been great. It's been just great. Thank you very much for coming back. We'll steal you again at some point. I guarantee it. Mark your calendar for next month's webinar on July 1st, Canada Day. In recognition of the day, we'll explore a topic with big implications for Canada's economy, the interprovincial barriers that limit the movement of electricity within our own country. As rising costs from the U.S. trade war and growing concerns over national sovereignty put pressure on our economy, the federal government is working to remove internal trade barriers. Among the most significant and often overlooked are those affecting the distribution of electricity among provinces. Eliminating these could lead to more efficient energy use and lower electricity costs for Canadians. Our scheduled guest will be Francis Bradley, CEO of Electricity Canada. Electricity Canada is a trade organization made up of electricity producers from across the country. Francis will share his insight into the challenges holding back interprovincial electricity flow, the financial impact of these barriers, and opportunities to create a more affordable and resilient energy future. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. It's quick, it's free, it helps more people find us on YouTube. That's all for this edition of Canada Talks. Thanks for tuning in. From everyone at Electric Vehicle Society, stay charged, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.